Welcome to another edition of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. Today we have Mayor Scott Hill from the city of McMinnville, Casey Kula from Yamhill County, we have Joya Goodrum from the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce, one of the most regular attendees. We have Mayor Linda Watkins from the city of Carlton, and we've got Takesha Wydrow from Sheridan and the Sheridan Revitalization Committee and so many other things. And in a moment, Al Bannon will be joining us from Congresswoman Bonamici's office, who these days has been full of all sorts of very interesting and serious subjects. So I'm sure that Al will have another great combination of things to talk about today. And coming on right now is also Mayor Rick Rogers from the city of Newburgh. So welcome, Al. I think I introduced you before you showed up, so apologies. And what I'd like to do is start by going to Mayor Scott Hill from the city of McMinnville. What would you like to share with people today? And we were just talking about how it's almost been a year of this. Let's keep it to maybe a year and 3 months. Can we have some hope?
Yeah. Light at the end of the tunnel, let's hope, okay? Well, thank you, Commissioner, and welcome to those that are on the call with us and those that will be watching. I just have maybe 5, 6 really fast kind of items. I just wanted to do a little bit of an update. You know, McMinnville kind of sits in this little pocket. When we get a lot of rain, there's something that's called flooding that hits us. And we lost a number of trees in our city parks. We had a lot of growth in the streams that tend to flood our parks and some of the Cozine creeks. But looking at the end result of that, yes, we did lose a few trees. We are in the process of cleaning up our parks and getting them back into working order. You know, our sewer and our wastewater, we have great capacity, so we typically are able to handle those surges of flood water. So, you know, Mac Water and Light did a really good job on any outages, trees. We had a windstorm in the middle of that had some fairly large gales of wind, and we've been able to handle all of those in very appropriate manners. So again, I just send a thank you out to our maintenance crew. I send it out to the county because your crew was out working during that. Mac Water and Light and wastewater, all of those departments were tremendously busy. And I love the reporting that came out. And I sent out a couple of updates to our citizens through my Facebook page. The other thing that I'm really excited about, something that I've been involved in for about a year and a half, and that is the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion process here in McMinnville. That was a part of our strategic plan. I've been involved with something called the Table of 12 as we're trying to make sure that we're serving everyone in our community. And this week, starting yesterday, we are interviewing 37 applicants for 7 positions on our DEI advisory committee. So that's going to be 4 days, 4 half days of interviewing. But I'll tell you, the candidates are phenomenal and they're passionate. And so we will bring a group of individuals, 7 individuals to, I think that's our February 9th council meeting to put that group together. They will start meeting on a monthly basis, and we can formally say, not only do we have a DEI statement and an ordinance, but we will now have a citizens committee that's going to give us some direction as we truly put together a community that has the diversity and equity and the inclusion, and we're going to see great things happening in McMinnville. It's always been an inclusive community, but it's even going to be greater because we're going to have a lot of good impact on people shooting with us. This Wednesday, we are starting the goal setting process for the council. I'll step back. A week ago, we had our swearing in of oath for myself and 3 other counselors. We are at full strength. We're learning to get to know one another for those that are new. But this Wednesday, we're going to be starting the goal setting process. I'll tell you, we look at our strategic plan and we love it, but it's about that thick. And sometimes when things are that thick, it's hard to implement, and that's what we're going through and trying to whittle that down to a manageable level of priorities. Last Thursday, we had an opportunity on our McMinnville leadership call, much like the Yamhill County leadership call. And I just wanted to update from the hospital's perspective. Laura was on the call and shared that they're very thankful that we do not have the influx of COVID patients out at the hospital. They have the PPE. They're doing elective surgery. I had an opportunity, I think it was last Friday, my wife had foot surgery, so I spent the whole day out at the hospital, and I can attest to how the customer service and how they're following all the procedures they need to do. And so that was a good report from the McMinnville, Willamette Valley Hospital. And my understanding is that goes over to Providence in Newburgh. There's great capacity there. That's where Lori came from. Last thing that I would have is, I think it was last Thursday night, maybe Friday night, we had our second annual Town and Gown between the city of McMinnville and Linfield. We had well over 100 that were invitees, and then many of them had spouses. I think we probably had somewhere to 60, and many of those were double. So we somewhere between 60 and 120 individuals, and we had an opportunity to be updated on the goings and happenings of Linfield and the city of McMinnville. We had breakout games, we had breakout chats, and again, it was an evening that was just phenomenal to be a part of. I know, Joya, you were there, and some great things happening. So a lot of things happening right now, but those are just off of the top of my head, some of the things that I wanted to update everyone with. So thank you, Casey.
Great. I was just about to say, let's hear it for Joya's questions, and then I have some for Mayor also.
Go ahead, Joya.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. You know, I'm always going to have a question. Me and my big dog. Anyway,
that's what makes this interesting.
Mayor, I heard you say that February 9th, candidates for the Citizens DEI Committee will be coming to council. They will be.
We'll be bringing the slate of names. So we will narrow down from the 37 candidates to 7.
Got it.
One of those will, and then there's an additional youth, and we've had one youth that has come to us too. So we'll be bringing those names for the council to the nominating committee, or those that are interviewing will bring that, and we'll then be able to read them in as committee members.
Excellent. I only heard a piece of it, and I wanted to make sure I had the right information. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's Great. My only question. Thanks.
Maybe we'll prompt some more. Mayor, I was wondering if you could share with people kind of what the mess is going on underneath the 3 Mile Lane Bridge, and whether you know about the timing of that going forward, since it affects a lot of people.
Well, they are cutting trees down. And right now they're cutting trees down for the temporary structure that's going to be built to the right, well, to the west of the bridge. And so that is a great thing because, from a transportation perspective, you go through a couple of phases. Number one, you do the environmental. Well, we had a bridge there, so the environmental was probably pretty much done, but they had to work on that. They've gone through design. Okay, and so we've gone through that, and now we're moving into the construction phase. And so the first thing that we're going to be doing is that temporary bridge, and it will be a freestanding temporary bridge, and it will be very narrow, and it's going to allow us then to expand the existing bridge and rebuild that. I'll tell you from 2 aspects. From a water standpoint, we're going to have water lines that are a part of the bridge. Right now, we have a water line that goes down through the creek area down below, and so we'll be able to vacate that. And then we've got electrical that's going to be be encased in the bridge also. And all of those things are well past. We've done all of the things that need to happen from that perspective. I do not know. I'm not prepared to share when that temporary bridge, but again, they're getting the things squared away spring, and that's going to be it's going to be more than one building season. So it's going to be going into next year. It's a major project to do what we need to do, but I'll come prepared to share a little more on that, Commissioner.
That sounds good. And then a follow-up to that. You said it's very narrow. I assume that there's still going to be an allowance for like pedestrian access across it.
My understanding is I don't think you're going to want to ride bikes during that time, as it is very hard to ride bikes right now. But they're going to make it safe, but it's not going to be what the end product on the other side is going to be when we rebuild.
Okay, thanks. And then my other question, you mentioned the flooding, especially in the parks. And I noticed a quite amazing story in the News Register about a Mac PD officer who worked to get somebody out of the floodwaters. It seems like an amazing situation, like really above and beyond. But I also wondered, is the park open, and do people, in the winter at that time, I've always just seen the park closed signs. Yeah. Is there anything that the city is thinking about doing there to kind of prevent people from being in the floodwaters?
The concern that we do is, yes, we close the park and we put up the barriers, so there's no vehicular traffic going in, but we have a very difficult time of keeping people who tend to like to go down and walk. And so why individuals might go down in a flood situation to use those trails, I don't know. But again, we had an officer that really was very aware of what was going on and called on the services of those to help someone that was stranded out there. And so good point. I'll bring that up in my Monday meeting just to make sure. But I just know that evenings we close parks, and then Joe Dancer, definitely we have gates to keep vehicular traffic out of that. And so I'll do an update on that also.
Okay, that sounds good. And since the motel sheltering program is available, I want to make sure that people know about it who might be otherwise getting their stuff washed away in the river.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there other questions? I've hogged his time, but are there other questions for the mayor? All right. Thank you for getting us started. And then I'm going to go to Mayor Rogers from the city of Newburgh. In no particular order, welcome, Mayor Rogers, and your new background.
Yes, yeah. This is the Habitat for Humanity office. Welcome to it. So sorry about the light that keeps going in and out. But anyway, it's great to see you all. Thank you, Thank you, Commissioner Kula, as always, and anybody online, thank you for tuning in. Biggest news in Newburgh lately is the mill is coming down. So if you have not been by, stuff is happening. They're taking down the big storage building. So that's happening. Another thing on a smaller note, I just saw the first turtle dove shelter has arrived in Newburgh. So that's actually a McMinnville outfit. A couple of guys that build these little shelters pulled by bicycles. So it was cool. It was cool to see that. And so somebody, she is now going to be at least have her possessions out of the rain for a while and be a little warmer than on the street. So that's good. And I won't, I'll leave it at that. So anyway, otherwise, yeah, DEI, Mayor Hill mentioned that, something that of course is very much a focus. We had the 11th annual MLK Day celebration yesterday evening at the Yamhill Cultural Center. It was fantastic, I thought. If people haven't seen it, it's on the website. There was a great keynote speaker and the music was absolutely fantastic. So check that out. Another thing on the same, and particularly kudos to Carissa Burkett at Yamhill Cultural Center and the organizers, because they did a fantastic job. We had speaking of the same subject, we had an anti-white supremacy march here in Newburgh on Saturday, which was pretty well attended. I think there were at least probably 100 people. It was a church organized function. So it was good. And there was some talk of being some counter protesters. I'm not really exactly sure how you could counter protest white supremacy, but there you go. It did not happen. So we did not see any counter protesters. Most everybody was very supportive. There were a few hand gestures that weren't exactly polite, but other than that, we got through it. On the same topic, we have, and I think I mentioned this here before, we do have an equity task force in Newburgh that is trying to start a series of dialogues and particularly outreach to community groups. The first of those was last Thursday with the Latino Parents Group at Newburgh School District. And so we got particular input. We're going to go to hiring a permanent police chief here in the not too distant future. And so we're trying to get a little input from that group as to what they might like to see in a future police chief. Let's see. And then, like I said, the community listening sessions, those continue to happen. And I think the next one is scheduled for next week. And hopefully we'll bring in then other groups, some church groups, probably groups from the university, and to get their take on the question of DEI and basically how the city of Newburgh can better serve our BIPOC population. So there it is. I think that's about what we got. Oh, no, I don't. Tonight at City Council, we have council tonight. So a couple of things. We are going to be discussing our methods of committee recruitment. That'll be one, and volunteer recruitment generally. Every year, we probably currently have about 100 volunteers that are serve on various committees at the city, and we want to make sure that we're, treating them well, right? Basically, this is a volunteer thing, as we all know, so it's nice to make sure that people are treated well. We'll hear about the audit, which was without mark for the fourth year in a row, without any kind of demerits on our audit. So, go finance team at the city of Newburgh. The CPRD trails request will be up tonight. They're going to try to get some money to extend the trail under the bypass, so that will be good. And then one that will affect you, actually, not you directly, Casey, but one that I may at some point like to talk to you about. There's a request to approve another wine tasting site on one of our country roads, or actually county roads in Newburgh. So. With that, I at some point would like to talk to you all and the county commissioners about increased traffic on these county roads, and particularly ones that will eventually come into the UGB or in the UGB and will eventually come into the city, and how we work towards that eventuality of these roads needing sidewalks, bike lanes, etc. So that's what I got.
Mayor, I'm happy to announce that our Public Works Director and our new county engineer have put together a list of every road segment that's within a city limit or within an urban growth boundary. And they are dedicated to reaching out. They've committed themselves to reaching out to every city in the county to say, we want to give this to you, and we will upgrade it to the standards that you require of us before we give it to you. So I suspect that our Public Works and your Public Works will be talking.
That's huge. That's great. That's great. In fact, I will mention that tonight at City Council so people are aware. That's cool. Great to hear that.
Good. I mean, because it's going to require so much cooperation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's great. That's really good. I'm glad you're on it before I even mentioned it. See that? See how that goes?
We have amazing staff.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. There's some things that are like, they seem low priority and they also seem really complex, but sometimes those low priority complex things, because they require so much cooperation, are actually a really great way to like build community out of this thing that seems like it's just ignore it.
I'll relay the news to Russ Thomas as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Are there any other questions or comments from Mayor Rogers? I'm excited to see the mill structure come down and to see what happens next. And I'm lobbying for my own thing.
Sorry, Commissioner, I do have a question. I have a very needy dog in my office today, so I'm a little distracted. Mayor Rogers, I am wondering if you have dates for the state of the city for Newburgh yet this year?
I don't. I have not heard. So I'm not sure at this point, but thank you for asking, and I'll relay that out once I know.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's right. Congresswoman Bonamici is getting a list. Okay, any other questions?
McMinnville's Mayor Hill, so thanks.
I'm super excited about it. I'm going to go now to Mayor Linda Watkins from the city of Carlton. Mayor, what would you like to share with people today about coronavirus, about everything else? And you're muted.
It's funny you should mention coronavirus to me in Carlton right now. It's been quite a topic around here the last week. We a week before last, our restaurants came to the city and said, we either have to open up to indoor dining or we're not going to make it. So the city checked in with health department and with our attorney and figured out what the city could, what our position was on that. We relayed that to our restaurant owners, which is basically, we are absolutely not going to condone it. We're not going to support it. This is what you guys are facing. And if you're deciding to do this, you need to talk to your insurance company. You need to talk to your attorneys. You need to understand the legal ramifications of what you're doing. There are folks in town who are quite perturbed about it. I wasn't sure if we were going to see a lynch mob a little bit ago, but that seemed to have settled down. People are concerned. I can't say I, disagree with them. I'm perturbed about it too. But unless they want to file complaints, which they don't seem to be willing to do, there's not, a position that we can really take or go on it. So that's right now one of the largest conversations going on in Carlton at the moment. The other side of that is that we spent most of last week interviewing, well, all of last week basically interviewing candidates for our new city manager. We did make an offer. We're waiting for that person to notify the people in their locale that they have accepted the job, and then we'll be making an announcement. Hopefully, I thought it was going to be yesterday, maybe today we'll be able to get it out and get that resolved. And I think that's going to make a big difference in what we're looking at. As Mayor Hill mentioned about flooding, we've seen some here. There have been some discussions with the developer over on JR Meadows 1 because people whose property backs onto the subdivision went out and found themselves in 12 inches of water where they have lived 25 years and never had water. And it was an oopsie. We made the grade too high right there. We'll have to fix it, I guess. But we also have a vineyard owner that was seeing some water that he's not seen before. So I don't know where we're going to be going with that and with those flood restrictions. So Carlton has been kind of interesting the last couple of weeks. But all we can do now is just hope that our restaurants do make it through. I did send a letter to our state senators, or not our state senators, our U.S. senators, just saying that I think that instead of just asking the restaurants to, or holding out and saying, well, you can serve outdoors or you can do takeaway, all of the small restaurants really need some financial support from our government. And they need I don't care how or what, but just some grants that will go to these folks and try to help them, and not a lottery and not a first come, first served, but let's think about what we're doing and make it available to all of them. Our restaurants and our small businesses are dying. And when we get done with this, we're going to have a bunch of empty buildings on Main Street. So there we go. That's it.
It looks like Joya has a question for you, but
I was going
to say trial by fire, but it's really been trial by water. Joya, well, sorry to interrupt you.
Yep, somebody.
I was going to let Mayor Rogers go first.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Joy. Greetings, Mayor. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice. Yeah, you and Mayor Hill both. Congratulations to you guys.
All right, thank you. So the news travels fast here in this county. I heard days ago that the restaurants in Carlton were opening.
Yes.
The way I heard it actually was the mayor in Carlton's allowing it to happen. What are you doing in Newburgh, Rick? And I said, my response was OSHA, the Oregon Health Authority, and the Yamhill County Health Department. There you go. Talk to them. So
OLCC.
yeah, OLCC, exactly. So, but anyway, know that the news traveled. So there you go.
If you go on to the homepage right now of our Carlton City website, the policy is out there as far as what we did and what our position is. And no, we did not tell them they could operate at 25% capacity. No, we did not tell them it was okay. No, we did not tell them that we were supporting them. All we said, the support thing came because they saw the letter that I had sent to the senators. And I think they felt somehow, it kind of came at the same time. And I think they felt like that was part of the, which it really, I don't know. It was just, I thought we needed to speak up and say something. But yeah, no, we have as a city not said, yeah, it's okay, go ahead and do this. And we would never do that.
Okay, well, thanks. And anybody says it, I will refer them directly to the City of Carlton's homepage. So there we go.
Yeah, it's up there.
Great, thank you.
Got it. I did also do on my mayor's page, I did a commentary about it, which is a little bit longer and maybe a little bit more touchy-feely in a few places, because I was really disturbed by how angry everybody was and how punitive they wanted to be. And yeah, it's a scary thing. I mean, I'm scared too. We're all scared. But I don't think that means that we need to start talking about the anger isn't going to help. Just the anger isn't going to help. So yeah. There we go.
Joya, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, a couple of things. What is your business association doing? I know you've got a group of Carlton business folks,
CPA,
right?
Yeah.
Are they getting the word out on all the information that's out there?
Well, we got the information out to them. I don't know what they're doing exactly, as far as I haven't really had. They're in a leadership transition right now, and so that may be causing some issues as far as their communication.
Sure. I'm gonna say this because I hear from the businesses all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
And the whole concept is it's not defiance, it's desperation. They are
Exactly.
desperate. Their anger is the fear that they have. They've invested everything, their entire lives. There are people who are losing their homes because they have no money coming in, and they have relied upon their business to be their living because that's what they do, right? And so it's really, really hard for them to sit back and do nothing and feel like they're being punished because they own a business.
Yeah.
And they're trying to run their business. And I don't know what the answer is. I will tell you that we have written letters to the county. We have written letters. We will be writing a letter to the city. It's coming, Mayor. And to the governor, and there'll probably be a letter that'll go to our legislators. We've got to figure out a way to let our businesses open and do what they do and do their commerce and do it safely. That's the most important thing, is to make sure that people are safe. And our businesses have proven that they can do that. And because they understand what they need to do, because their business is the most important thing to them. If they didn't care about their business, they wouldn't be running a business. They'd be doing something else.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm happy to help you. If there's some information I can send to you, if you put your email in the chat or something, I'm happy to send to you my email that I send out with regular information that you can share with your businesses.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. The anger that I was talking about was not necessarily coming from the business owners. I mean, they're just desperate. The anger was the blowback from some people in the community who were very perturbed about the idea that they were opening up, and why are you doing this and putting us all at risk? Everybody's got their own opinion on that. I can't Some people were fine with it. Some people are upset about it. And there's nothing I can do with that except to say, have a little compassion and have a little sympathy for these guys that are looking at losing 3-generation family businesses because they can't open.
It looks like Councillor Drabkin, who welcome. I apologize, I didn't welcome you when you popped in, but it looks like you had a question, and then I'll have a follow-up too.
Oh, great. Yeah, and mine is more of a follow-up than a question. As I think just hearing from you, Joya, about letters that are specifically coming to the hyper-local levels of government where we really have no power or jurisdiction. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I read your lips. We have no jurisdiction. I would like to throw out ideas that I'm hearing, which is that advocacy efforts could potentially better be directed at requesting that OSHA comes up with some sort of criteria so that instead of it being an industry-wide regulation, that individual businesses that are demonstrating an ability to conduct business safely may have different sets of criteria, assuming they can show that they can conduct business in a way that's not counter to what public health is informing, would be a greater level of risk. And I'm sure we have all seen that in our communities, that there are those who have opened within the guidelines that are hyper diligent, and there are those that are open and have not been hyper diligent with safety protocols, and of course this is a exceptionally impossible balance to strike of safety of the community at large and the safety of businesses, and so I just encourage you to look into that. There's a number of associations that are talking about how we can request at the state level that things become more specific to individual businesses rather than industry-wide, understanding that there would still be regulation, but not asking jurisdiction, not asking local governments that have no jurisdiction to create change that they are not able to, or where they're not able to make any change. Thank you.
And Joya.
Thank you, Councillor Drobkin. I appreciate that. Actually, the request is to write a letter to the governor asking her to let our businesses open. That's what the request is going to be. I know you have no jurisdiction. We know that. It's more of a please let us open our businesses the way you said. I love that. That would be so awesome if we could have that. There was a study at OSU, I think, that said that gyms are not a place where the virus is spreading, and yet they closed all the gyms, and they've been closed for almost 2 months now. That, a month and a half, whatever it's been, it's killing them, and it's really hard for our businesses. So thank you.
And Mayor Hill, this is a great, I was going to swear, so I'm not going to swear. This is a great conversation. Thank you for prompting it, Mayor Watkins. Mayor Hill.
From a city perspective, from the very beginning, and I use the word, we do not have jurisdiction, and we know where the jurisdiction lies. It's with the health, the Oregon Health Agency for our residents, and it's with OSHA for our businesses. But we have come out from a city perspective and says that because we do not have jurisdiction, we're not going to enforce. We're not going to use our energies and our assets to enforce that. And so it does put it back on each of the businesses. And I think, Mayor, you were very right in saying that the companies have to look from their perspective what needs to happen. Now, on the flip side, I think it was either Thursday or Friday, the Oregon Health Agency sent out their daily assessment of COVID. And they kind of went, our first 1,000, it took like 6 months. And the incidences of 1,000, growth by 1,000 is down to, I think this last was a month. So the incidences are going up tremendously statewide. And that's the thing that you have to balance. I'll share with you, I don't think that businesses don't have to recreate a wheel, because there are states that are much more open and they have things that are working very well. I spent the Christmas holiday in a Rocky Mountain state that was open. And I'll tell you, we went out to dinner every other day, and it was safe there, and we were safe. I mean, we did everything in our power. We wore our mask. We made sure that, we were at least 6 feet away from the next table. They made sure that the waiters all had the protective gear on. And we felt we were taking a little bit of risk, but we were willing to do that. It's been 14 days since we've been back from that, and we have no signs of that. So, it's a very difficult situation that one has to look at. But from a McMinnville standpoint, from the very beginning, we don't have jurisdiction. We're not going to use our assets to do that, other than we're going to support government. So.
And Mayor Rogers, and then it looks like, wait, Al, did you throw up your, okay. Yeah, let's go with Mayor Rogers and then.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on this. We need another stimulus package, right? We need to be able to get the money out to these businesses. So please, everybody, all we can do to get that through in DC, let's get it done so that, again, we can we don't have the resources. Bluntly, at the city level, we just don't. We've got a lot of demands on our resources. And we need to do it. The other thing I'll mention is that I think the COG is putting together a letter regarding particularly our institutions of higher education, and hoping to try to expand the definition of education beyond K-12. Because again, whether it's Linfield, George Fox, these guys are suffering as well, right? And they'd like to get back in a way that they can safely at least have the professors get some kind of get their vaccinations and all. So that's another thing that'll be circulating soon.
That sounds great, Mayor. And I know that other states have included higher ed, because just before I got in here, my law school friend was showing his arm. But Al has some comments, I think, on the stimulus package on the legislative side.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Mayor Rogers, and also excellent wardrobe today. Good style. I did want to bring that up, and Mayor Watkins, I also wanted to, sorry, it all moved around, the faces move around. I was looking at you down here and you moved over here. I wanted to address the stimulus package and also the need for additional restaurant relief. The Congresswoman actually held a roundtable discussion with restaurant owners on Friday of last week, all around the district, and she heard all of these concerns that we're hearing. She heard from, we did get the second round of PPP in the last stimulus that just came out in the beginning of the year, but the Congresswoman knows that is not, while it is very helpful, and the first round of PPP was a lifeline for many restaurants and small businesses, for restaurants that have been closed for months on end, they don't need more loans, they need grants. And that is what the Congresswoman is hearing across the board, and that is what she is fighting for. She is a co-sponsor for Rep. Blumenauer's Restaurants Act, and it was almost included in the last stimulus. It did not make it through, but she's very hopeful that it will get included in a next stimulus package, and she's going to continue to push for that. So yes, we need another stimulus package, but there needs to be specific grant relief that is embedded within that package. And I assure you that the Congresswoman is continuing to fight and push for that.
Al, do you know if the proposal, the like 1.9 trillion that President-elect Biden is pushing for, do you know if that includes the Restaurant Act, or whether that's something that Congress is going to push in?
I don't know. I know that it has bipartisan support, so I wouldn't be surprised if Congress, well, I'll use the Congresswoman's language from last week, that she's very hopeful that it would be included in another relief package under the new administration. But let me do a quick Google while we get more updates, and I'll see if it's included in Biden's plan. Okay, that sounds good. And to keep going with this conversation, because I think it's one of our most important ones right now, is the conversations that I have had recently with the governor's office suggest that a lot of counties are going to be moving from the extreme risk category pretty soon, or trends suggest, into the high risk, which puts many counties in the 25, allows indoor dining at 25%. So it's very exciting. I haven't seen the new numbers yet for our county, but I do know that we've been having between 100 and 150 new cases between Friday and Monday. And this week we had 63. So we need to hold our trends. And in theory, we can be part of that group. But again, we are going to have to cut our numbers in half. The one thing I wanted to ask about, though, is, and Joya will probably know the answer better than anybody else, is early on in things, I was hearing from restaurant owners that 50% capacity was completely unacceptable. No profit margin ever would occur, and they were going to go out of business. And so I find it challenging to understand the real strong push to move to 25%, unless it's simply like, well, we're going to have a little bit more income. And so maybe that's something, maybe that's what it's the realist in people. And Joya's nod suggests that, yes, that is that they're still not going to be making a profit, but they might cover enough of their costs to keep going.
It's better than nothing, and right now they're getting nothing. So if you're just doing takeout, and you might be doing fine with takeout, but if you are renting space, you are paying for that space, and it is not delivering revenue to you for that space. And you count on, okay, I've got this many seats in my restaurant. This is how much money I'm going to make every month to pay that rent on top of everything else. And if you're not selling a seat, you're not driving revenue. So yeah, it's a better than nothing.
And to that point, Joya, the places that I was able to visit, with the lower capacity along with takeout, then it makes it almost 50% in some instances. That's what I saw. Those that didn't feel comfortable to come in would be taking takeout, and there was a complete line, and they had a situation and it was awfully cold where I was, but they had a station with heaters that you could come and pick up your meals, and then those that were waiting to come into the restaurant. We had to wait 45 minutes to be able to get in the restaurant. That's how busy they were, but it was at a reduced capacity.
Yeah, we have a restaurant that he commented the other day that he needs to bring in $500 a day just to make his bills. He's not bringing in $500 a day with the situation the way it is now. So whatever we could do to help him.
Yeah, definitely. And I remain hopeful on the numbers portion of it, because I'll just say that the leadership of the state has made it very clear that reducing case counts is going to be the thing that drives the changes.
Yeah.
And I just, I can talk to them all day, but if that's their position and it's one that's based upon what they understand to be right, then I'll go with the advocating with Al. Because it has worked. I just want to make that clear, is that the Congresswoman has been very successful in getting us some money for businesses. It's not enough, and it's not been enough for individuals either, but she has really delivered for us. Do we have any more questions or comments regarding Mayor Watkins? Thank you very much for bringing all this forward. And Al, do you have any more updates beyond what you shared with us?
I don't have any specific update today. The Congresswoman is just waiting for the new administration to switch over tomorrow. She continues to prioritize economic and pandemic recovery in the first couple months of the 117th Congress. And I think you were kind of hinting at this, Commissioner Kula, but it is relief and funds, but it also is the quick distribution of vaccination and making sure that we have enough vaccines for our counties, because that is what is going to let folks get back to work safely and healthy and quickly. And so the Congresswoman is staying a part of those conversations and trying to make sure that Oregon gets allocated the amount of vaccines that we need to get our communities up and running again. So I don't have anything specific. If anybody has any questions, happy to try to get you what you're looking for. But the Congresswoman is really hopeful that with this new administration, there is going to be some movement happening in the next couple months. So hang tight.
Thank you, Al. Before I ask for questions from other folks, so vaccine doses, your crystal ball, based upon your boss's ability to deliver for our state, what do you think? I mean, at this point, as you know, it's a limit at the federal level that's really driving our ability to dose people.
Right. I think we'll know more next week. I think that it's just because the Biden administration is going to greatly change how the vaccine distribution process is happening. They're wanting to just get the vaccines out. I just don't want to, throw a number out there that is completely made up in my head, and then everybody is like expecting some number. And to be honest, I'm not even quite sure what that number would look like for our state. But I know that the Congresswoman is pushing for full vaccination as quickly as possible. Now, I have been on the state calls, and I know that, based upon and I know you've been hearing this too, Commissioner Kula, but based upon what the state currently has, we're looking at, fall realistically to having the general public getting vaccines. I know that the Congresswoman is pushing for that to be earlier, but I do think we all need to be a little bit realistic about what that is currently looking like, and hopefully it'll expand as we keep getting more vaccines and have new folks in charge that are prioritizing, distributing, and getting a federal reserve of vaccines.
Right, and I thank you for that. I think it's important to remember too that case counts will go down as more people are vaccinated. And I recognize that we have some unknown herd immunity level percentage of the population, but every healthcare worker and every long-term care resident who gets fully vaccinated is a break in that chain of transmission. So for me, I'm super excited every time I hear from somebody who's got their second dose. Well, thank you. Are there other questions for Al? Okay, great. I'm going to check in to see if Councilor Drabkin has anything she'd like to add from the city. Oh.
Oops. No, I don't believe so. I do. Unfortunately, I have to leave this meeting a few minutes early today. It's the wrong calendar. I will say that thanks to this meeting, again, I said this last week, but we are even further along in working with Wyden and Merkley's office. And so many thanks, Commissioner. And I did attend the Oregon Housing Summit last week. And unfortunately, grim news in that from there as well. Oregon, it looks like we at a state level, we would need about 40,000 additional housing units per year to meet current needs. Currently, the state's producing about 20,000 units per year, and Oregon is 49th in housing production. So that speaks to some of the local problems that we're having as well. And the kind of line, the quote of the Housing Summit was that the only thing that Oregonians hate more than sprawl is density. And I thought that was a very true takeaway that is not, that also speaks to part of the problem that we have in producing additional housing for our small communities. And one of the questions that was being asked of all communities to consider is how do we allow higher density in our existing UGB, and taking into consideration that our land laws largely don't support that. And so asking cities and counties to really take time to evaluate their existing building codes. And then hand in hand with that, then is how do we protect low income families from being taken advantage of if and when laws and codes are revised. So those were a few takeaways from the Housing Summit. McMinnville did hold, and I'm sorry if our mayor already reported on it, the second McMinnville City and Linfield University Town and Gown. We also have started interviews for the city's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which is a first for the city of McMinnville. The mayor and I and our Human Resources Director are conducting those interviews. We had an astounding number of applicants, and given the nature of the committee, we chose to interview everyone. So over the course of the next 2 weeks, we're conducting 37 interviews, I believe. So that, and that kind of wraps up what I have. I'll have hopefully more next week after a couple more meetings. And thank you. And thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
And Councillor Drabkin, before you leave, I should mention that my sister-in-law happens to be a land use planner with the city of Gresham, and she works every day on issues of affordable and equitable housing there. So I'm going to connect the two of you.
That would be wonderful.
I mean, you know, counselor to counselor is good, but she'll give you all of the lowdown. Because obviously it's a challenging thing everywhere, as you mentioned.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm flipping a coin here. Takesha, Wydro, Joya, who would like to go first? You're on either side of me, and I'm incapable of deciding. Takesha says, totally good. Joya, what would you like to share with people? And again, I so appreciate your regular attendance here. It's like you and me, and then whoever else shows up.
I don't know about that. I know I've missed a few, but for me, it's really important. I love coming because I always learn something new, and I get to take notes and share that with our members, and that's always important. So I appreciate being able to participate in this every week. So thank you, Commissioner, for putting this together, and for everybody else bringing their expertise and their thoughts on what's happening around our community. I certainly appreciate it. I want to talk a little bit about some PPP and that kind of stuff, because that's important. So PPP round 1 opened last week for first timers. And that was only for banks that had less than $1 billion in assets. So small banks, CDFIs, et cetera, were open last week. Today, larger banks, well, actually it was yesterday, with $1 billion or more in assets open. So if you are interested in asking for PPP loans, the applications are out there, and just go to your local banker and talk to them. They have an employee retention credit that you can tax credit, and you can get in more information. I think we might see this whole plan work out tomorrow at irs.gov. You can get up to $14,000 per employee. And that is if you have a business that has less than 500 employees, I believe, I've got this right here, 500 or fewer employees, and you can show a 20% decline in gross receipts in a quarter in 2020 compared to 2019. Second PPP draw is also available right now. It is a forgivable loan of up to $2 million for businesses. Yes, that's $2 million with fewer than 300 employees. However, it's got to be 2.5 times the cost of your payroll for 1 month. So, and exhausted, let's see, if you have exhausted your first PPP and more than 25% decline in gross receipts in any quarter compared to 2019, that happened in 2020. So those are the two PPP pieces. Let's see, I have, there's also a priority for full EIDL grants of up to $10,000 with 300 or fewer employees. And that's very targeted to certain specific areas. I have more information if somebody's interested, just give me a call and I'll be happy to explain it because I know we're running out of time. There's also money for live venue grants. And one other last thing. So Oregon Business Associations, Oregon State Chamber and OBI, et cetera, put together a wildfire assistance fund for businesses. Yeah, I sent it to you, Commissioner, and you asked me to mention it today. If you know a business that is needing some assistance because they had impact from the wildfires, have them reach out to me. I'm happy to give them that information. I think the most the grant can be is $2,500. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, that's a wonderful program, and I'm really grateful that everybody got together to set that up. So it's very important, especially because it feels like sometimes, this thing or that thing just doesn't fit into the existing FEMA programs, for example. And you're like, well, there are still expenses that people have incurred. And this isn't really the time to just have extra expenses, right? Yeah. Well, real quickly before we sign off, I just wanted to do a quick vaccine dose update for you. So while some of you probably heard that the state thought they were getting another 175,000 doses last week, turns out that they didn't exist. And I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. It's not like I'm going to figure it out, but I'm still curious. The state is expecting to only have about 50,000 new doses each week, so the prime as opposed to the booster. And those are spread across all of Oregon. And the state has decided that mass vaccination high throughput sites are where they're going to focus their efforts while there's still a limited number of doses available. So what that means is that Yamhill County is not going to be getting any new doses in the short term for people who aren't still in phase 1A, which is, healthcare workers and folks in elder care facilities, essentially, and law enforcement, first responders. So what the OHA did, the Oregon Health Authority did say that if a county wanted to put together a plan for a mass vaccination site, that they could submit that and kind of get on the schedule. The reality is that because of small counties, they're getting small amounts of doses in. Setting up a mass vaccination open site doesn't even make sense if we get 500 or 100 doses. So we're going to put together a plan and we're going to present it to OHA with the hopes of at least bringing one of those to our county. Because while the one in Marion County, for example, the fairgrounds, and one that's being set up in the Portland metro area, those are actually open to people from other counties who are in the phase if they're eligible. That is a tremendous equity issue. You can't, if you don't have a car, you're not going to get in there, for example. So I want to make sure that we get them here. We do have, there were, for some reason, 400 extra doses that came into the county this week. So Yamhill County Public Health, they're doing one vaccination clinic that's closed at the fairgrounds, and then they're going to do another round to long-term care facilities that have not yet been contacted by one of the federally contracted pharmacies. So sorry, that was a long thing, but basically big pharmacies have contracted with the federal government to inoculate folks in elder care and long-term care facilities, but some of them in our county have not been contacted by a pharmacy yet. So the county is going to be filling in those gaps. Whew. It's a lot of information, but hopefully it makes sense to keep an eye on what's happening in our county. Yamhill County Public Health has a weekly newsletter that they're going to start. You can sign up for that at their website, the county's website. And then the state has finally put together a COVID vaccine page that includes a sign up for information from the state and like a little map locator that tells you where there are vaccine sites that are available. I'll make it available to you all in a follow-up email though. So at least things are starting to shape up, which I'm excited to see and I'm impatient about. But if you have any questions, all right. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for sharing all of your amazing knowledge and your beautiful thoughts. And we will see you next week. Stay safe out there. Keep your distance. Don't eat inside for now. Wear your mask. See you next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.